Hello everybody, my name's Deetra, and I've had a few people request me do a video on my travel journals. I've been doing travel journals for a few years now. I started scrapbooking when I was probably in high school, which was quite a few years ago. But then I kind of put that aside, and then in 2000 I got married, and that was when Mrs. Grossman's and cutting all your stuff up with decorative scissors was in. And so I did a book on that. In 2004, I started to scrapbook again because I had our son. I wanted to document the memories I had of him and had all these big ideas that I was going to keep up on it. And as most of us know, that didn't really happen. But I've tried to keep up somewhat. So as we did more traveling as a family, and I did more scrapbooking retreats and things, I would collect all this stuff. I'd bring it home, put it in a file, put it in a container, and have great hopes that someday I'd get to it. And then I decided I need to do this on the road. So one of my first ones is this Scrap Happy family reunion I went to in 2015. The book was from an Amy Tangerine collection that I had gotten when she was putting these together. And in here you see all these little bits. This was from Claire. She was from Australia. She gave us this little piece of candy. I had some different cards and things. This here, Stephanie Ackerman was our instructor, and she had all these pieces of felt that we sewed together, so I put a few of those in my book. I just put all kinds of different things. We had some wine, so I put the wine label in there. This was from a restaurant that we went to. We needed to drink a lot of water, and so on and so forth. I also really enjoy using bits from newspapers, and so this was from the USA Today when I was in Arizona for this event. So as you see, there's all kinds of different bits and pieces. This was a postcard I gave some folks, a picture of myself, and so on. Then I've done so many of them, but this was another one I've just done recently. This was a road trip I took with my mother in May of 2018. This is the picture of the back of our car and the road, a postcard of where we stopped, some different bits, places we ate, places we stayed. I usually try and find postcards. I try to find stickers from the areas that we stop in or go to. We went to Thorpe, Washington, and this was a sticker I found there. I love me some kombucha, so I loved this label, so I used it. This Bellingham, Washington, it came out of I call it propaganda, but out of a travel brochure. And then I went to Stamp-A-Doodle, and this is, just like a little piece that they had, and I just folded it up and put it in here just to tuck it in. And I bought this collection while I was there. And I went to Michael's, and I went to Joann's. Went to Applebee's with some friends. And then my mom and I just had a great time checking out Boulevard Park and some of our favorite places in Bellingham. So as you see, I do like little tip outs and different things like that. And then we went to a farmer's market, and I got this little wallet. This was from our hotel that we stayed at. This was out of a brochure from the farmer's market, and so on. The rest of the travel journal is somewhat private. It's about my cousin's wedding. She got married, and so I want to give her that privacy of not showing those pictures. So now I have another journal to show you, but first I would like to show you the supplies I took on this special trip to Ecuador. I made a video of the supplies that I took, and I will show you that now, and then we'll go into what I call a junk journal. And you'll understand why when I show you the journal. I am preparing for one of the biggest trips I've ever taken. My son and I are leaving for Ecuador tomorrow. So I am taking these supplies. It's very limited. No scissors because I'm carrying everything on. This is a charger, and I'm taking a hole punch so I can put stuff in this book that I've made. Some watercolors and some stickers, a few Project Life cards, and a few other things. So we'll see what I do with it. They're all going in this bag. We'll see you on the road. As you see, the amount of supplies I took on this trip to Ecuador were pretty minimal. We had 2 backpacks, one for our clothes and one for any other items we wanted to take on the plane. So I had to get creative. First off, I want to talk about this bag that I have here. It's just a little shopping bag that someone gave me. Well, in fact, my son gave it to me. One of his roommates had thrown it away. And when he gave it to me, I thought, well, I'll just cut it up and put it in my journal. But then I thought, wait a minute, I might enjoy having a place to store my journal. By this point in time, my journal had gotten pretty thick because I had been doing my scrapbooking or entries while I was in Ecuador. So this journal is perfect size for this bag. And so that's where I'm keeping it. So here is my journal. As you saw, the front was pretty plain. It just had the flower on it when I first went to Ecuador. As we traveled, I bought stickers to put on the front of this journal. Both of these stickers did come from the equator. That was our first day in Ecuador. We did a lot of discovering. This page here, I did this before we left because I had to get shots. So as you see, I have shots in both arms. And then this here is the sticker that they gave me for being such a good patient. As you see, as we go through this, these are different memories of our travels. I got really sick right after we got on the plane. So that was a memory thing. And some extra bags because, like I said, I was really sick. And I took a picture here of the map of our flight while we were in flight. And as you see here too, let me go back to this McDonald's bag. I used it as just kind of a piece of paper to put travels on. And then we also have our tickets, some memories of the food we ate, some bits. The food was awful except for the double crunch brownie. So I had to keep that piece of paper or that packaging. Some custom forms, pictures of my son and I. And then I did buy quite a few postcards. But what I tried to do is take pictures that I had taken and print them with my sprocket. And then I could remember the volcanoes that I saw. And if you see here, there's a volcano above that cloud. We also went to many different landmarks, popular tourist areas. So they would have these brochures. And it was so nice because I made a template before I left of what I needed for the punching, and that way I could use my hole punch to make the 3 holes easily. And it didn't take much time at all in the evenings to put this book together. I got some more postcards, bits from the hotel. This is just a piece of note paper with the picture of the hotel room, some funny little things about the toilets. And then you see I keep the hotel key cards because they always tell me it's okay. So, and it has little pictures and different things about the hotels. My son wrote a little bit of stuff on it. I kept some tea stuff, some tea wrappers, candy wrappers. I always try to grab cards from places, so then that way I have the information if I ever want to go back and can't remember. These pieces of ribbon here, I sent my son on an outing with one of his teachers. In Ecuador, they have tons of ribbon and fabrics, and I knew if I went into a fabric store or a ribbon store, I would come home with too much. So as you see, as I flip through here, I have to, anytime I see anything that has anything to do with what we're doing or where we're at, I grab it and put it in this junk journal. These are all pictures of stained glass, and yes, these are all different. The stained glass in the cathedral that we went to in Quito. These are all about a monastery that we went to. And then there's some pictures and a little bit of journaling about what I remember about the wonderful cathedrals and monasteries. This here, I balanced that egg on the head of a nail, and this was at the equator. And I got a little certificate, so I was able to put it right in my book that evening, and then I didn't have to worry about losing it. I collect napkins. I collect all of the bits off of anything we purchase. I bought this little hat here at an alpaca farm, and this is the information that was on there. I take pictures of a lot of food, and I try to put things on there so I remember where we were at. Any kind of bags I get from things we buy. This trip in particular, there was a lot of things that were the same types of food, like these Oreos, for instance. But then there was these, I don't want to butcher the name of them, so Twinkie-like cakes, but they were so much better than a Twinkie. I would have probably eaten a few packages of those. But these were like road trip foods that we tried, and I thought the packaging was interesting because of some of the differences that are on there. And then I had little pictures, and let me tell you, in years past, I did not have a sprocket. My family got it for me for Mother's Day this year. And so what I did is I used my Project Life app and did 2 pictures on one little sprocket picture. So it made it so that I could use a lot more of my sprocket film and not run out so quickly, because when you're on a trip like this, it's so much fun to take pictures. Anyway, so these are all bits from or trash, or whatever you want to call it, junk from our trip. And these are from potato chips. This is from a really yummy ice cream we had. Some different things that we enjoyed. This is from some Inca ruins that we went to. And then we saw them in person, and so I put the pictures on there. This is candy wrappers that we got from a school that we went to. This little smiley face here was off of a bag, like a shopping bag. We had ice cream, and this is the little piece of paper off the ice cream cone. And as I went through this trip, I'm going to reiterate, I did this each night in my hotel. So every evening, it was just a quick 5 or 6 punches of some holes, and then I put the things in. And then when I had time, I would go back and do some journaling and print some pictures. Because as we know, on any trip that we take, we may have a little bit more free time in the evenings sometimes, unless you're at Disneyland. And then, I don't know, I couldn't do anything at Disneyland. We were there morning to night, so... But this trip, I had a few minutes, and so I was able to do some different things. Here's the school we went to, some pictures of the kiddos, some different pamphlets from their science fair that was going on, some different things about experiences we had, dancing, some different foods we ate, some experiences we had going to where Panama hats are made. That Panama hat my son bought while he was there. Some different things that we brought home. Some markets we went to. And then we continue on to some chocolate factories that we went to. We saw how cacao was made from the pod into the paste. And then on our way home, sometimes I grab the placemats off of things and use them for paper, and I can put the items. I was doing some scrapbooking on the plane. That's another way to do it. And then this Pepsi, I'll never forget, everybody was wanting a Pepsi on the trip and we couldn't find any until the very last day. I was so thankful I quit drinking Pepsi a few years ago. So anyhow, I hope that gives you some insight into how I put these together. I wish that I had been able to video some of my process when I was on the trip, and maybe that will come someday. But I hope that this has inspired you and given you some ideas of where to look to find some just bits and pieces to put into a memory album, so that someday when you look back and you can say, oh, remember when we went to the equator, when I was able to balance that egg on that nail head, and I got the little certificate for doing it. Or when I stood on one side of the North Hemisphere and the other side the South. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I sure appreciate your time that you've taken to look at this wonderful junk journal that I made. I call it wonderful because it is full of memories for me. Oh, and just a few other little bits. This is another ribbon that my son bought me while we were there. It's the colors of the Ecuadorian flag. And this hat I bought at the Panama Hat Company. I wanted to have a memory of that. We went with EF Tours, and this is the bracelet we had to wear just in case we got lost. We saw a lot of llamas, both wild and domestic. And music. Music played a huge part in the trip. We enjoyed salsa dancing. We enjoyed just dancing as a group. And so I bought this little whistle just to remind me of all the beautiful music.